Hi, I'm leedrummer100, and this is the first ever leedrummer100f1 podcast. I'm new to YouTube, new to doing videos on the internet. It's something I've wanted to do now for a couple of years. I'm a massive F1 fan. I watched my first race in 1994, San Marino Grand Prix. I was never into Formula 1 before that. My dad was a massive fan, and he got me to watch that race. And I've just hooked since then. The bravery and reality of it with the death. The first time I ever watched it, I understood what these guys do and why it's such a dangerous sport, and in that way exciting as well. And that's it. I've been I can count on one hand the amount of races I've missed. I can count on two hands the amount of races I've actually been to now, which is pretty cool. And I just want to do a weekly episodic show with a qualifying build-up. Obviously this week, because there's no race to talk about last week. And then on Saturday, a short qualifying roundup video. Then the week after, we'll do a race roundup video. And a look forward to the next qualifying. I've got some notes here, so just give me a second. My opinion of the tests. I've been looking at every day since the first test started, and I've pulled up on my laptop here a collection of times of every driver and the fastest times from the last test. I know lots of websites don't do this. I don't understand why more websites don't. You'll get day one and day two, not all drivers. So I thought we'd have a quick look at that, as we've got not a lot to talk about until Saturday. But I was looking here. I mean, Nico Rosberg is a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton, pretty much on the nose over testing here. I realise it's just testing, and he also did another 30 laps. But I really think Nico he's looking good this year. The Mercedes looks ultra fast anyway. I don't think there's any denying that. As far as what we're looking at the minute, he looks in good shape. Both drivers do look in good shape to be fighting towards the championship. Whether Mercedes can keep development up, they've struggled with that in the past. They struggled with it at Brawn, struggled with it last year as well. They had a really quick car at the beginning, and for some reason, the updates just didn't come. Maybe Paddy Lowe being involved in Mercedes now have something to do. It's something when he was at McLaren were always good at. I'm a Jenson Button fan, but not a fan to the point where I'm a fanboy. I'm a fan of the sport, but I support a driver. Kevin Magnussen here, he and Jenson put pretty much identical times in to put Kevin third and Jenson fourth on the timesheets for the last test. It's going to be so interesting what happens there. I hope Jenson has the edge over him. But Magnussen, he looks like the real deal in my eyes. He really looks quick. Whether over his first season he'll be able to have the same sort of impact Lewis Hamilton had in his first year is yet to be seen. From a personal level, I kind of hope not. But there you go. Who knows? Nico Hülkenberg in Force India was fifth with a fifth fastest time, 137 laps over the last test. It's these guys up in the top 10, down to sort of not 8th, 9th. The laps start to disappear a little bit. Then Sergio Perez put in a few good. Well, sorry, not for Sergio. Valtteri Bottas put in some excellent laps. But the top teams really seem to have got some good times on some good laps under them, and hopefully that will go towards reliability. And there's so many question marks this year over the cars, over how long they're going to go, what fuel saving. I don't know if any of you saw the F1 show and Sky Sports F1 show the other day, but they were saying that the Ferrari might be quite thirsty. I don't know. I don't think anyone's really going to know that until Saturday. Historically, if you think a car's going to use more fuel, you'd think it would be Ferrari, because they've always had this grunt mentality about engines. So maybe it would be harder for them to be more reserved in that way. So we'll see. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all the times here down to 24th, but it would be ridiculous of me not to skip people out and start talking about Red Bull racing. I think it's blatantly obvious what's happened. I think Adrian Newey's tried to go too aggressive with the car, possibly to a point where, I mean, he showed last year how stubborn he is, or what it seems to be how stubborn he is. Is that the curves was never really worked properly on a Red Bull. It was dropping in and dropping out, mostly on Mark Webber's car, it seemed to be. It was overheating. But this year, with all the changes, I think he's tried to go too far with what he wants, rather than building a car you know is going to work and then honing it. And I think that's the main thing. You need a reliable car this year. There's always been that thing with people saying you should have a quick car, and then you can try and make that car reliable. Then it's easier to do that than it is to have a slow car and make that a slow reliable car and make that fast. But I think this year reliability is going to be king, and I just can't see the Red Bull being able to come back. I think they will come back, and I think they'll win races. But will they do that before it's too late in the championship? If Nico or Hamilton, when they've got what seems to be a strong advantage over the rest of the field, if they can do a Jensen in a Brawn and knock 6 or 7 races out, that driver is going to be hard to catch. I don't think it will do, because I think if there's 7 races won at the beginning of the season by Mercedes, which I don't think there will be, I think they'll be split. I think both the drivers they've got are good enough where on one day someone's going to have an upper hand, on the other day someone else is going to have the upper hand. But I think Nico will edge it over Hamilton, because I think he's just a better all-round driver, and he's shown he's got the speed now as well. Hamilton's always had the speed advantage over teammates, but I think Nico might even have the speed over a single lap in qualifying over Lewis from some of the qualifying performances he put in last year. The testing was interesting for me. It was there was so many breakdowns due to Renault engines that we don't know. We don't really know how quick the Lotus is. We don't really know how quick the Red Bull is as a car. I mean, right here, there's less than a tenth between Kobayashi's time in the Caterham and Daniel Ricciardo's time in the Red Bull, and that is last year. Ricciardo would have gone around in a Red Bull car against the Caterham on tick over quicker than the Caterham could have gone, and it's just seeing there, and Sebastian Vettel down in 17th. It's unbelievable to me. I don't quite get how it's happened so much. You get a team that, fair enough, McLaren last year, they didn't put together a good car. They know they didn't put together a good car, but they weren't propping up the Caterhams and the Marushas. So who knows? up to now, I think talk's cheap, isn't it? When looking at this, we're going to know on Saturday. Saturday, we can have a much better discussion about all this after we've seen qualifying. I am going to give some qualifying predictions, though. Pretty uneducated qualifying predictions, as we've been talking about it. I think Rosberg's going to get pole. I think Hamilton's going to be second. I think Massa is going to be third, and I think it's going to be a small victory for him if he can qualify above the Ferraris in his first race with Williams. He's just going to be over the moon, isn't he? I think Alonso's going to be fourth and Bottas fifth. Kimi will be sixth, and I think then you get the first of the McLarens. I think Jensen will be seventh. Hülkenberg will slot into eighth. Ninth will be Kevin Magnussen, and 10th is up for grabs. I don't know. It's probably going to be a Sauber driver, maybe. Who knows? Maybe Lotus can fire a good lap in, because hopefully qualifying should be pretty straightforward. We shouldn't have lots of reliability issues. I wouldn't hope. Oh well, I'd hope not. You know, if you have to prep a car for an hour to do bursts, it's going to be different to doing a whole Grand Prix. I think I'm gonna put my neck out and give a season prediction now, just coming towards the end of this video, and you're probably bored of listening to me by now. I think Rosberg will be World Drivers' Championship this year, World Drivers' Champion even. I want Jensen to win, obviously, because I'm a Jensen fan, but I just can't see it happening. But I think the battle between him and Hamilton especially is going to be fascinating this year. I think there's going to be surprises. I think McLaren will end up being more competitive than they are, than they seem to be at the minute. I do think at least one of their drivers will be a championship contender up to a point this year, and a real championship contender. Whether the development race will swing in the way of McLaren and it can go forward, who knows? Ferrari as well. They are making the engine for their car, the same as Mercedes are making the engine for their car. It's going to be such an advantage to those two teams to be able to tailor every aspect to work in tandem with the power units this year. But again, who knows? Every driver seems this year, when you look up and down the list of drivers here, from Daniel Ricciardo for Red Bull, it's a massive year for him. It's a massive year for Jensen after having such a bad year last year. Kevin Magnussen, massive for him. Kimi going back to Ferrari. Felipe Massa with Williams, and what's a good car when now they've got like sponsorship behind them and stuff. Hülkenberg going back to Force India. You know, he needs to go back to Force India and show why he's there. Sergio Perez needs to show he should be in Formula One. I think McLaren were quite unfair with Sergio. I don't think he was given a proper go. I don't think he was the right driver for McLaren in the first place, but I do think it was quite unfair the way he was treated. There's just so many different rivalries going on this year that it could end up that a bad season this year for 3 or 4 or 5 drivers, it could be gone. Could be a quarter of the grid replaced next year. Just because drivers need to get in and need to get a handle on the new rules and the new cars. It's really going to be a brilliant year, I think. But on that note, I hope you enjoy the podcast. If things seem a bit shaky at the minute, please, if there's something part of the podcast you like, then subscribe. There's going to be a Twitter, which I'll link below. And yeah, just get involved in the comments. Tell me what you want from something like this. Tell me if there's anything you think I can do to make this better. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever done anything like this, so any advice is great. As far as the comment section goes, constructive criticism is brilliant. Don't be a dick to me. Don't be a dick to other people. We'll be fine. And I'll speak to you on Saturday, and hopefully we'll have seen some really good action. Okay, cheers. Bye bye.